Hey, what the hell is happening with your face? And the thing over there. Look behind you. Look. I don't know. I don't even know how to say hello. Hello. I'm Nick Digilio. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. I do almost daily videos, almost daily. Yeah. And please subscribe to my Patreon page. Very important, please. It's very, very easy. You pick a tier, you become a patron. You can donate a month. $3, $6, $25 a month, whatever you want to donate. Every little teeny bit helps, keeps the videos going, helps me to continue to do my podcast, which is a separate thing. But in order to do my podcast, I need a little help. And in order to do these videos and to give you content and to give you bonus content, if you go to patreon.com/NickDShow right now, patreon.com/NickDShow, you donate, become a patron, you get bonus videos and some other really cool stuff that we're planning in the future. But for now, there's a bunch of videos on there that only patrons can get. A lot of them are behind the scenes, true stories of what happened at WGN, what's happening at WGN now, and the true story of what happened when I got canned, not the bullshit lies that were circulating all around, and everybody was like, oh, Nick's drunk again, that's why he got fired, and all this other bullshit. I set that all straight, all truth, all behind the scenes stuff that you can't check out unless you become a patron. So if you want to see those videos and those stories and get extra content and some fun stuff, patreon.com/NickDShow, give today. And my podcast, as I mentioned, it's the Nick D Podcast as part of the great Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Check out radiomisfits.com or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. All right. So, I went to the Walgreens a few days ago to get my booster shot, my second booster. If you're not vaxxed, you should be. I don't know what your deal is, but I don't want to get into the politics of it. But just to be a good human being, an actual good human being, you should get vaccinated if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, you should have over a year ago. Anyway, I got my second booster and very happy about it. But the thing I'm most happy about was that I got a really cool on my arm here. Got it in my right arm because I'm a lefty. Somebody kept telling me that you're supposed to use the arm that you use, that if you're left-handed, you're supposed to get it in your left arm, and if you're right-handed, you're supposed to get it in your right arm. Then I heard vice versa. Whatever the dominant arm is what you're supposed to do. Fuck that. I don't want the dominant arm that I'm using to be sore, so I did my right arm. Anyway, the point is that I got my booster shot at Walgreens, and I got one of those cool Walgreens red Walgreens Band-Aids. I didn't save it, obviously. When I took it off, I threw it away. Because it's a fucking used Band-Aid, and I'm not Stimpy of Ren and Stimpy. Boy, that's a deep cut. If you're a Ren and Stimpy fan, you're going, yeah, that's right. Stimpy did save his old Band-Aids. Anyway, but it was cool because it was red and it had the Walgreens W logo on it. Yeah, that looks like the Nationals, the Washington Nationals. Every time the Cubs play the Nationals, I always think that they're playing Walgreens. Like it's the Walgreens team that the Cubs are playing. But yeah, the W there, the Walgreens W, red Band-Aid with the W on it. First time I got one of those. I've had 4 shots now. The first 2 Pfizer shots, the booster from a few months ago, and then the second booster. That's 4 shots. I'd never gotten I only went to Walgreens twice for the shots. But even those 2 times, I didn't get it. And everybody's walking around all proud. Hey, look at my Walgreens Band-Aid, it's awesome. And I was so jealous. I was green with red jealousy over the red Band-Aid with the Walgreens logo on it. I wanted a Walgreens Band-Aid. I got it the other day. I was very happy that I got vaccinated, that there were no side effects except for kind of a sore arm, and that's about it. And that I'm fully vaxxed, and that, I'm complying and being a good human being. Like a real good human being and getting vaccinated. That made me proud, but I was most happy about the fact that I got the Walgreens Band-Aid. Which made me think of the Walgreens story. Now, if you were a listener of my radio show, then you probably know the story that involves me and Walgreens. And no, I didn't get drunk and go in there and knock stuff over or anything like that. No, I didn't do that back in the day. At all. No, the Walgreens story that I'm talking about is from my childhood that actually leaked out into my adulthood. So, there are lies that parents tell their kids. This is a topic that Esmeralda and I will talk about on the podcast. The great Esmeralda Leon, who appears on all my podcasts, every episode of my podcast. We have a great time. Every single episode, Esmeralda and I pick a few topics to talk about, and we have a blast. Because I can't imagine doing my podcast without Esmeralda Leon. Because Esmeralda rules, I love her, and I can't imagine doing a podcast without having her on every episode to just talk back and forth with her, stuff that she wants to talk about, stuff that I want to talk about. On the next podcast where she's going to be on, we are going to discuss ridiculous lies that parents told their kids. You know, you don't want to deal with certain stuff, so you tell your kid like a lie. You know what I mean? Like it's something, or maybe you don't want to tell your kid something now. Like if they start asking about sex at a very young age, you'll make something up. Like, where do babies come from? There's a delivery truck that shows up. You get a loaf of bread and a baby every Tuesday. You know, that kind of bullshit that you tell your kids in order to, you know, I don't want to talk about birds and the bees with my 4-year-old right now. So, but other lies that you tell your kids, that kind of stuff. And so I have a few here, and we're going to talk about more of them. I mean, because I was just reading an article because of this whole thing. The reason why I'm doing this video is because of that. I was reading this article about some really, they did some testimonials where this website talked to a bunch of parents about the lies that they told their kids. And some of them are hilarious. So you got to check out my podcast, subscribe, radiomisfits.com, Nick D Podcast. If you want to hear that podcast, it'll be coming up on Friday. Tuesday and Friday are my podcast days. Tuesday and Friday. I said Thursday earlier. I tape on Thursday, but it comes out on Friday. So this Friday coming up is when Esmeralda and I are going to talk about lies that parents told their kids, and some of them are doozies, really. But I got some basic ones here, and then I'll get to one that kind of involves Walgreens and me and my asshole uncle. So here's some of them right now. How about, hey, what happens if you swallow a piece of gum? Uh-oh. It's going to take 7 years to digest. You know that. Your loving parents told you that. Your mom said, don't swallow gum, because if you do, it'll stick inside your stomach, and it'll take 7 years to digest. Okay, that's horse shit. It's not true. That's one of my favorites. Everybody's heard that one. How about, don't read in the dark. It'll hurt your eyes. You know, like if your parents caught you were supposed to be asleep or something, then you're under the covers and you got a flashlight and you're reading. I guess that's not a concern now because all the kids have their phones and shit. But, you know, and I guess it's also not a concern if you don't have a bookworm for a kid, but I read a lot when I was a kid. So like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd have my flashlight on and I'd be reading like Edgar Allan Poe. But the old, like, don't read in the dark, it'll hurt your eye, you'll go blind. Not only will it hurt your eyes, but you'll go blind. Another one. How about, speaking of eyes, cross your eyes. Cross your eyes, they're going to stay that way. Oh, shit. And your mom always knew somebody that happened to. Cross your eyes, they stay that way. That was another one. How about trying to keep your eyes open? If you keep your eyes open when you sneeze, your eyes are going to fly out of your head. That's a good one, right? Eyes are going to pop right out of your skull. You keep them, blam, eyes pop out. It's scanners. Not true. And then my mom used to say this one, and this is a weird one, and this is one that I will mention with Esmeralda, and we'll talk about at length on the podcast. My mom used to say, if you play with matches, you'll pee the bed. You'll pee the bed. You'll pee the bed. That's what my mom used to say. I don't know if that's exclusive to my mother or what. I don't know. My mom grew up on a farm in southern Illinois. Maybe that was a thing then. She also says wash instead of wash. My mom says wash. So I don't know. Maybe it's a southern Illinois farming thing. Like you play with fire, you light the hay on fire or something like that. Play with matches. You'll pee the bed. You'll pee the bed. Okay. So those are the pee the bed one. I think might be exclusive to my mom. I don't know if your parents told you that if you play with matches you'll pee the bed. Leave it on your little commentary here, or better yet, after you become a patron at patreon.com/NickDShow, leave the comments on the Patreon page. So anyway, those are one. Now, I want to specifically talk about a lie that I was told. So when I was a little kid, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, maybe a little older, 9. 9. I think I was 9 or 10. Around that age. Anyway, kid, young. My uncle, who was married to my aunt, obviously, but he was not blood related. He was my uncle, second husband of my mom's sister, and he was a goofy dude. They ended up getting divorced. Long story, whatever. But anyway, he's not part of the family anymore. Anyway, when he was part of the family, he told me this story. We were in Walgreens one time, going back to Walgreens. We were in Walgreens one time, and I don't know what we stopped in there for. We stopped in Walgreens for a little bit, and then I think we went to a movie at the Norwich, because at that time, my aunt, my uncle, and my two cousins lived walking distance to the Norwich Theater. They lived in the Norwich area, right by Elliott's grocery store, right on the corner there. They lived right around the corner from Elliott's, right down the street from the theater, and lived in Norwich. So anyway, I think we stopped into Walgreens, whatever, and then when we got back in the car, he says to me, my uncle, "Hey, you know why it's called Walgreens, right?" And I was like, "No, why is it called Walgreens?" And he said, well, it's because when the first stores opened, back in the 30s or the 20s, when the store first opened, the first stores, all the walls were painted green in the stores. And I was like, wow, really? He's like, yeah, that's why it's called Walgreens. Because when it first opened, it was distinctive. They wanted to be a pharmacy, and they wanted to set themselves apart from other stores and other pharmacies, so they painted all their walls green. That's why it's called Walgreens, because all the walls were green when they first opened. And I was like, wow. I believed him, 9-year-old kid. Walgreens, green walls, that makes sense to the mind of a 9-year-old. Oh, cool. They painted the walls green. That's why they're called Walgreens. Okay, cool. Cut to, I don't know, 9 years old. Cut to about 15 years later, 14, 13, 15 years, something like that. I'm in my early 20s, and I'm at a party with a bunch of people. We're having beers. We're all hanging out. There's about 7, 8 of us in a room. We're talking. Somehow the subject of Walgreens came up. We started talking about Walgreens. Maybe somebody went in and, I don't know, got drunk and knocked some stuff over to Walgreens. I don't know. Anyway, so we were talking about Walgreens, and then I go in a room full of people in their 20s, and I'm like 23 years old at this point, 22, 23 years old, and I go, hey, well, you know why the stores are called Walgreens, right? And there's like a silence in the room, and people are looking at me like, what? And I'm like, you know why it's called Walgreens, right? And then they humor me. One guy goes, all right, why? And I said, well, because when the stores first opened, all the walls were painted green. When they first opened, they wanted to separate themselves from other pharmacies and stores, so they painted all their walls green. So when the first stores opened, all the walls were painted green, and that's why they're called Walgreens. And I said this with a straight fucking face. I said this like it was true. And everybody in the room just like looked at me and went, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, what? And I believed it. And I'm like, what are you talking? What do you mean? What's wrong with me? What the fuck is wrong? They painted the walls green. And I go, yeah, that's why it's called Walgreens. The walls were painted green when they first opened. And everybody in the room is like, is there something wrong with you? Are you fucking drunk now? And I'm like, no. What do you? And then I stop for a second. And they go, moron. There was a family called Walgreen. That's why it's called Walgreens with an apostrophe. Because there was a family called Walgreen that founded the store and named it after their family. They call it Walgreens. It's not because the fucking walls were painted green. You seriously believe that? And I was like, and literally, in my mind, I was like, I am the stupidest person on the planet. And I believed from the moment my uncle told me that when I was 9 years old to the moment I said it in public at 23, those years between 9 and 23, I walked around the world thinking that Walgreens was called Walgreens because the fucking walls were painted green when they first opened. I believed that from the age of 9 to the age of 23 when I embarrassed the hell out of myself by saying it without irony, without joking, with a straight face to a room full of people in their 20s. They were like, moron, it's not because the walls were painted green, you fucking idiot. So, my uncle, who, by the way, at that point, when this happened to me, was long gone. My aunt had divorced him, so I couldn't find him and punch him in the fucking mouth, which is what I wanted to do. Like, my immediate response was, I have to find my uncle, and I have to punch him right in the fucking mouth. But again, it's not really his fault. I'm an idiot. So I can't give 100% of the blame to this. I mean, he was a jagoff in real life. I won't go into it. But he was a jagoff for telling a 9-year-old that it was called Walgreens because the walls were painted green. An impressionable young kid. But also, he was a jagoff for doing that. But also, I'm a fucking moron for believing it until I was in my early 20s. So, you want to know how stupid I am? Until I was 23 years old, I thought Walgreens was called Walgreens because they painted the fucking walls green. And seriously, everybody laughed. It became a thing, and it's still a goddamn thing. The people who were in that room that I still know, 30-some years later, 35 years later or whatever it was, there are still a few people that I know that were in that room. They still give me shit, and rightfully so. They still give me shit. Hey, remember when Nick thought Walgreens was called Walgreens because the walls were green? They were painted green? What a fucking moron. They're right. So, anyway, I encourage lying to your children. It's a good thing. And if it's a lie that could last that many years to the point where a person completely embarrasses his stupid ass by saying in a room that Walgreens is called Walgreens because the first stores, the walls were painted green, that's a success. So kudos to my uncle. Good job, dude. It took a long time, but that joke paid off. Sometimes you gotta wait. Sometimes you gotta wait a really long time for the punchline of a joke to kick in. So anyway, so in case you didn't know it, Walgreens is not called Walgreens because in the first stores, the walls were fucking painted green. That's not why. Anyway, I was just happy I got the Band-Aid. That's really all I care about.